Good afternoon. How are ya?
Hello there. How are you?
I am great. Look at us doing the show 3 weeks in a row.
You don't see us.
Look at us doing the show three
You
weeks
don't see
in
us.
a row.
You don't see us.
Sorry, we're a few minutes late, y'all. Just as I was getting ready to hit the button, I got a phone call and I had to kind of take a few minutes of that. But we are here. We are here on a Wednesday. Three consecutive Wednesdays. Yes, yes.
Mm-hmm.
We're gonna go for 4 next week, honey. We're going for 4. How you doing, Dr. L? How you doing?
You know, if I was any better, I'd be twins.
Well, all right. If you was any better, you be twins. Okay, then. Well, you guys, listen. You know, we are here to bring you the latest shenanigans in the world of this crazy, crazy world that we're in. We're here with the latest shenanigans. Come on in, come on in, come on in. Take a seat. Also, good news too. Also, we are 93 subscribers away from getting to 1,000 subscribers. So listen, if you are new here, please subscribe to the channel. Um, and then watch a video because we gotta get our watch hours up. So watch a video. But us being here has helped. So with that being said, you guys, we have an update. I'm sorry, I need some water. We have an update to what we were talking about last week with Columbia University. Unfortunately, it's not a good update, but an update nonetheless. Um, and we're gonna talk about some other things. Excuse me, I might need to go get some
Yeah, you
water.
need to go get some water.
All right, yeah. Go ahead. You want to start talking about Columbia, and I'll go get some
Yeah,
grab some water.
y'all listen. So let me start on this article and read this, and then we could go from there. While she's going to go get some water, I'll go ahead and get us started with this. And the title is Columbia University expels some students who seized building last year, suspends others. Columbia University says it has expelled and suspended some students who took over a campus building during pro-Palestinian protests last spring and had temporarily revoked the diplomas of some students who have since graduated. In a campus-wide email sent Thursday, the university said its judicial board had issued its sanctions against dozens of students who occupied Hamilton Hall based on its evaluation of the severity of behaviors. The university did not provide a breakdown of how many students were expelled, suspended, or had their degree revoked. Here's the statement from Columbia University. Quote, today, the Columbia University Judicial Board determined findings and issued sanctions to students ranging from multi-year suspensions, temporary degree revocations, and expulsions related to the occupation of Hamilton Hall last spring. With respect to other events taking place last spring, the University Judicial Board's determinations recognize previously imposed disciplinary action. The return of suspended students will be overseen by Columbia's University Life Office. Columbia is committed to enforcing the university's rules and policies and improving our disciplinary processes. The outcomes issued by the UJB are based on its evaluation of the severity of behaviors at these events and prior disciplinary actions. These outcomes are the result of following the thorough and rigorous process laid out in the rules of university conduct in our statutes, which include investigations, hearings, and deliberations. This process is separate and distinct from the Office of Institutional Equity and the Center for Student Success and Intervention Student Conduct. We will continue to work to support our community, including protecting the privacy of our students during this challenging time. And we remain steadfastly committed to our values and our mission. End of quote. The takeover of Hamilton Hall came on April 30th, 2024, an escalation led by a smaller group of students of the tent encampment that had sprung up on Columbia's campus against the war in Gaza. Students and their allies barricaded themselves inside the hall with furniture and padlocks in a major escalation of campus protests. At the request of university leaders, hundreds of officers with the New York Police Department stormed onto campus. The following night, officers carrying zip ties and riot shields poured into the occupied building through a window and arrested dozens of people. At a court hearing in June, the Manhattan District Attorney's Office said it would not pursue criminal charges for 31 of the 46 people initially arrested on trespassing charges inside the administration building. But all of the students still face disciplinary hearings and possible expulsion from the university. The district attorney's office said at the time that they were dismissing charges against most of those arrested inside the building due in part to a lack of evidence tying them to specific acts of property damage and the fact that none of the students had criminal histories. More than a dozen of those arrested were offered deals that would have eventually led to the dismissal of their charges, but they refused them. Protest organizers said, quote, in a show of solidarity with those facing the most extreme repression, end of quote. Most in the group were alumni, but two were current students, prosecutors said. And that's the gist of it. There it is, right there.
So here's what I want to say. At first glance, I know a lot of people want to be like, oh my gosh, how could they do that? How could they punish these students? How could they revoke a degree that a student earned and they were given? I want to remind people that there are still they're not students anymore, but there are still people who actively participated in sit-ins and boycotts from the 1960s, Black students some from HBCUs who were kicked out of school for participating in boycotts and sit-ins, because we know, like we said on last week, a lot of these movements are led by the students. We had anti-Vietnam protesters who were kicked out of school. I'm not sure about having their degrees revoked. Now that's another conversation, but I know there are a lot of I've met some through various activities I participated in, members who were freedom riders and things of that nature, and when they chose to participate in the civil rights movement, they were kicked out of school, and some of them got their degrees posthumously or got honorary degrees. But again, we're talking about in the 1980s and the 1990s, and I know some civil rights workers who still have not been acknowledged from their college that they attended and or graduated from, because they participated in these movements. So it's unfortunate, and I hate to hear it. And I think it's ridiculous for the students who actually earned their degrees. I think that is, I don't know how you revoke a degree that was earned. I just don't know how you do that. I don't know. Maybe you have some clarity on that, El Teddy. I don't know how you revoke.
I'm lockstepping. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I was just gonna finish that sentence. I see the ones who were kicked out of school. Again, I'm not saying that makes it okay, but the ones that I don't understand how Columbia comes back and says, yeah, you met the requirements, you did everything you were supposed to do, and we let you walk across the stage, and we sent you your we sent you your sheepskin, but you know what? Go on and send that thing back. I just don't know how you do that.
I'm with you on that. And when you do protest, you understand that there are going to probably be some consequences. You may be jailed. You may be, like you said, there may be school disciplinary action within the university. But let's be clear. These students paid for their education. This isn't something that was given freely. There is money put into this. Be that through a scholarship, that's still their money that they earned. Or if it's just regular paid tuition. And some of them may have student loans that they have to pay for said degrees. Even if they did not finish their degree program, you still, as a university, in my estimation, have to give them their transcripts with the credits that they have paid for and earned, because that has no bearing on your disciplinary action. If that disciplinary action isn't with regard to them cheating for those courses, or as long as it doesn't involve the actual the validity and accuracy of the credits that they received. If they went to those classes, earned their grades, got credit, you can say we're going to expel you. You can say we're going to suspend you from the university. Understood, great. But I can't wrap my brain around how legally these students have paid for these courses, taken said courses, been given credit for these courses. And I ain't even got to the students that graduated, but I'm talking about the students that had paid for those courses. And now you're saying, oh yeah, the current students. Oh yeah, well, it's going to be a problem. And then they said most of these students had already graduated, and there were a couple that had graduated since then. If these are already graduates, I don't understand how the revocation of the degree happens, because they already had transcripts that says at the bottom of the freaking transcript, degree conferred on ... They already have a degree with the seal and of that school, the signatures, probably the governor, if it's a state school, and the university president, and all of those other people whose signatures are on it. How does that work? And how is that even legal when these students have earned said degrees and paid money? I don't, and maybe I'm missing some proviso or some fine print that you sign when you go to when you sign up for college or go to school. Maybe we're missing something there, really, being that we just don't know about.
Because again, I don't understand. It's like justice delayed is justice denied. You let them graduate. You let them participate in graduation, and you gave them their degree after the protest. So again, I'm just not sure. I told you guys last week that if you ever thought about going into the law, now is the time, because civil rights attorneys, educational rights attorneys are just going to be in high demand over the next couple of years. You have time to go to law school, pass the bar, and you're still going to have plenty of work the way we're headed. But we wanted to give you guys that update on Columbia University. If anybody is in higher education that has some insight, feel free to email us or leave a comment under the video, because I'm not even being funny. I understand that you putting students out, suspending them or whatever, but once they already have their degree and they're done, I don't even know how you do that. But okay, again, if there's a case of cheating, I get it, because you didn't earn the degree, you cheated. But because you participated in a protest before you even graduated, yeah, that part right there is a little confusing to me. Anyway, where we want to head next? You want to go down to Alabama? You want to talk about the Supreme Court a little bit? You want to talk about ed tech? Where we want to go next?
Let's go Alabama. Let's get Alabama out of the way, dear God.
Let's go on and get it. All right.
With Governor Meemaw.
So did we? We didn't do it this year. We probably should have done it this year. Our spreadsheet. I guess it's not too late if I go back. Our spreadsheet, because Alabama, I think, was in our top. Was Alabama in our top 5 when we kept? I think last year we kept.
I don't remember if Alabama was. I know Tennessee crept up in there, because remember we kept getting a whole bunch of stuff.
Virginia,
stuff from Tennessee,
Florida, Texas. I think Virginia, maybe Tennessee were our top 4. But all right, let's talk about what's going on down in Alabama. I'll put the link in the chat in a minute, you guys. I have to pull it up. But Alabama schools could lose millions for skipping daily pledge and prayer. This article was published February the 13th of 2025. Alabama lawmakers debated Wednesday whether to require schools to start their day with the Pledge of Allegiance and a Judeo-Christian prayer. If a school refuses, it could lose a quarter of its annual state funding. Yes, 25%. Yes. Mm-hmm. But the legislation could also draw the attention of the constitutional attorneys wary of the bill's intersection of church and state. You think this might violate church and state? Doctor? Okay.
Just a little bit.
Just a smidgen. It's just ethics and basics of what our country is built on, says Rep. Reed Ingram, a Republican from Pike Road, the bill's sponsor. The legislation, I'll come back to that part. The legislation passed through the House State Government Committee and will head to the full House floor for consideration. Critics expressed concern that the legislation would punish schools by withholding vital resources if they refuse to institute such a policy. The bill applies to public schools grades K through 12. My biggest concern is the punitive aspects of taking 25% education funding from students that don't comply. Schools that don't comply, says Representative Marilyn Lands, a Democrat from Huntsville. Lands acknowledged the potential for legal challenges, citing the bill's vagueness regarding the inclusion of prayers beyond Judeo-Christian ones. Excuse me. Lands asked Ingram if a silent prayer would be allowed. Ingram responded that the focus was on reciting a Judeo-Christian prayer, comparing the public displays within the legislation to the national's motto, "In God We Trust." The motto was added to government buildings throughout the state 8 years ago under the influence of conservative activists. Ingram and the legislation doesn't require students to participate in the prayer. Ingram said the legislation doesn't require students to participate in a prayer. The focus is only on whether the schools will host a prayer, and if they don't, there could be a massive funding clawback. According to the bill, the state superintendent has the option to withhold a quarter of the state revenue that goes to a school system each fiscal year. For instance, Birmingham City Schools receive around $158 million in state funding per year. If the school system is found to be in violation of the pledge and prayer requirement, it could lose up to $40 million in annual funding. Ingram claimed that not all schools currently recite the Pledge of Allegiance, despite a state law requiring public schools to conduct the pledge at the beginning of each school day. While student participation is optional, the law was amended in 2019 to ensure that all schools recite the pledge. Our recruiting is down for the National Guard, Ingram said. It's down in every branch of the military, and a lot of these kids don't understand what the flag is. I'm just going to keep reading. The bill is coming at a time when a number of GOP-led states are testing the separation of church and state limits in public schools. Oklahoma School Superintendent Ryan Walters, for instance, is ordering the state to teach the Bible in 5th through 12th grades as a historical text. He says it's necessary to understand the Federalist Papers in the writings of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. In Louisiana, Florida, and Texas, laws have been approved to allow public schools to hire religious chaplains. In Texas, school boards are required by law to adopt a school chaplain policy. So we can't get enough counselors in schools, but we got money to hire chaplains. That's what we're doing. Okay. Alabama lawmakers are expected to take up legislation this session that will require the 10 Commandments to be displayed inside public schools. We're almost done. Governor Kay Ivey called on lawmakers to incorporate key historical documents and the 10 Commandments in classrooms during her State of the State address. Representative Mac Butler, a Republican from Rainbow City, expressed confidence that House Bill 231 will withstand legal challenges, pointing to a 2022 U.S. Supreme Court decision that reshaped how courts interpret the separation of church and state. In the ruling, Kennedy versus Birmingham School District, it overturned a long-standing lemon test, a legal standard established in 1971 to determine whether a government action violates the First Amendment's Establishment Clause. The lemon test required that a law or policy meet a three-pronged standard by having a secular purpose, not advance or inhabit religion, and avoid excessive government entanglement with religion. In its place, the Supreme Court adopted an approach based on historical practices and understandings, meaning courts should evaluate Establishment Clause caused by considering how religion and government interacted in the nation's founding. This shift has been embraced in recent years by conservatives who believe it makes it easier for religious expression in public settings to be legally upheld. So much is going on in this article, I don't even know where to start. Go ahead.
People think that Teddy just be spiking out and
Well, to be
blathering
fair, you
about.
do. To be fair, you do. You spike out. We're going to be fair.
But for good reason. I just don't spike out for no reason. There's good reason. And when I read articles like this is good reason. It's so disrespectful and so oxymoronic for this to be a country founded on religious freedom. Am I wrong in that? Did I learn the history of why these people came over here? Wrong.
I
Did I learn
mean,
that
I
wrong?
learned that that's why some of them. I learned that's why some of the people came over here. Now you know.
Yeah, some of them. That's that. At least that's what they wrote. Now
That's what they told us.
that's what they're taught in their skewed revisionist history that they told us, right? And yet we are now morphing into the country with which we fled. They are really turning this country into the place they left some 500 years ago. I'm just being honest. That's what this is really be. We're literally turning back. We're turning back into a monarchy. We're turning into a place where you are forced to speak just the one language. You're turning into a place where you're forced to practice one religion or face dire consequences. And so now, if my child is believes in Islam, if my child believes in Buddhism, if my child believes in Confucius, if we're Confucius or any
Or
other religion.
we're just agnostic. I
Right,
mean,
not or don't believe in any religion at all, then now you are forced. What happened to the parents' rights? Because these are the same people who were out here at every school board in America with Moms for Liberty
Moms for Liberty.
telling us that it's about the parents' rights and we parents should have the rights to do whatever they want. And now those parents are having their rights, their religious rights obviated by laws like this. And then if a school chooses not to do this, that school will then have resources taken from them. And what are they going to do with that money? Before I even get to how horrible and egregious it is that you're taking money away from public schools because they choose not to participate in your Judeo-Christian prayer. Answer me this, Batman. What are y'all going to do with this money? What is happening with all of this extra money you have? Because these schools choose not to do it. Because now, here's where the rubber meets the pavement on the school district. What do you think is going to happen to me if I'm a principal and say, yeah, I don't want to do that, or we can't do that? You really think a principal is going to get that option really be?
No, absolutely not.
Because at the moment that a principal says we're not doing that, and now that school could possibly not get funding in education, that school superintendent will immediately remove them and put somebody in place that will do it.
Well, first of all, I mean, I don't know how much more funding we can cut from the schools, because if we eliminate the Department of Education and we get rid of all of these programs, I mean, let's talk about Alabama for a minute. All of Alabama is Title I. Can we just call a thing?
You can.
All of Alabama is Title I. And if we eliminate the Title I funding and the Head Start funding and the funding and protections for students with special needs, I don't know how much Alabama has left to cut from anything. Which, of course, is the plan. But, you know. Which, of course, yeah. Listen, we're going to call a thing. That's the plan. And then we're going to go back to a segregated school system where the rich have what they need, the more affluent neighborhoods and communities have what they need, and the poor sides of town continue to suffer, which again it will be a de facto segregated school system without, even though they can change the law. Obviously, they can change the law about segregation. They just did it yesterday. But that's another conversation for another channel. But we de facto put ourselves back in a segregated state. Because again, let's remember, Thurgood Marshall and the NAACP, they never argued that the separate part was the problem. They argued that the equal part was the problem. And that's what the Supreme Court said. The Supreme Court never said that separate schools was the issue. They said there's no way that this can be an equal system because the states, going back to why the Department of Education had to be developed in the first place, because the states are not equally distributing the funds to the schools. I'm sorry. Am I doing too much?
No, you ain't doing too much. And here's the other part, really be. These are the same. Let's really see where these dots connect, really be. These are the same states that want to take money from public schools and have voucher systems, right? Right. So now you're taking money from public schools, giving them to either private schools and or charter schools. Here's the other part. You're forcing all of these public schools with less resources to have all of these extra things that they have to do. You have to pray and all of this extra stuff. But all of the money that is now going to charter schools and private schools, none of those schools have to do any of it. And they get all of the taxpayer money. Public schools, you better do all of these stupid things that violate your constitutional rights and laws. But the private and charter schools,
let me tell you something. I can tell you for a fact. I've worked.
You don't have to do any of it.
Exactly. And I went to private school my entire educational life from K through 12, and even I went to a private college actually. It was just an HBCU, so you know. And I've taught at a charter school, and I've taught at public school. And let me tell you what I know for sure. Ain't nobody have to tell me, nobody have to convince me. I know for certain that charter schools do whatever they want to do. That's why, and I've told y'all this before, no disrespect to a charter school, no disrespect to anybody that's worked at one, started one, administrator at one, whatever. But you know what I'm saying is true. Charter schools, I don't pay attention to stats and data that come from charter schools because they don't have to follow the same rules as public school. So it sounds great to say, oh, well, 100% of our students got into an Ivy League college or we got over $300 million in scholarships. But then when I say, okay, but what does your matriculation look like? How many of these kids started in 9th grade that are still here in 12th grade? How many, you know what I'm saying? How many of these kids, what did the testing scores look like? And did those kids mysteriously disappear? What is your IDEA numbers looking like? How many kids are on 504s? How many kids have IEPs? Do you have any kids that have extreme special needs? Do you have any kids that need to be self-contained here? Do you have any kids that are in wheelchairs, that are visually impaired? Here, like, I want to know the numbers. And then when you give me those numbers, then we can compare it to the local high school that's in your same district. I mean, that's in your same area where the kids that we can do a fair comparison. I bet you we'll be looking at high school numbers where we're looking at a high school class of 150, maybe 300 kids versus 1,500, 1,700 kids. I bet you we'll be looking at little to no IEPs versus, I don't even want to get into the numbers, but we could probably say over 100 IEPs. See, the numbers don't compare. And like you said, El Teddy, and now that's what we're doing. We're moving to these voucher systems. And they, you know, we told y'all this before. They like to give these things pretty names. School choice. That's a pretty name. It sounds real nice. School choice. When at the end of the day, all it is a way to allow rich people who can already afford to send their kids to private schools, a way to send their kids to these private schools for free on your dime. And now we're saying that if these students don't stand up every morning and recite a prayer, then you're going to take away their funding. You said that they haven't said the Pledge of Allegiance in I don't know how many years. And I guess they're connecting kids not wanting to go into the military. I guess they're connecting that to not saying the Pledge of Allegiance, but okay, go off. It doesn't have anything to do with the fact that we've been in a war for the last 20 years. I guess it don't have nothing to do with that, huh? I guess it has nothing to do with the fact that we treat our vets like crap. Look at what's going on now. But okay.
I
All
mean,
right.
and the other part about it is really be oftentimes what we have with these private and charter schools, they'll take them, right?
Mm-hmm.
Soon as we call it in Florida, FTE, or as soon as that time period in the fall where the money is released from the state, there's for those people that don't know budgeting within the school district, in a lot of states, it's usually sometime in October. That's usually about the month where they take a snapshot of the school population and they say, based on that snapshot that we do, these are the funds that we're going to allocate, and they release the funds to those schools, to the school districts, who then release it to the schools for allocations, right? And for their, allotments. And some states do it twice a year. They may do it once in October. They may do it another one in like January or February or something like that. But what happens is a lot of these charter schools, they'll keep them on the roll until such a time as they get that money. Then they send those students back to public schools for the smallest infraction. Oh, you was 10 minutes late to class today? Oh, yeah, call your mama. Tell her, yeah, we sending you back to public schools, because now they don't want to deal with you anymore. And now,
because the money doesn't follow the
right,
kids. Once they
they're
get that
all
money,
right.
it's a wrap.
They already got all of the money for that child.
Yeah.
And now they're sending them back to the public schools, who has $0 for said child, but is still responsible for all of the accommodations for that child.
Absolutely. I remember I told at a charter school one time, and this actually I was a long-term sub. So I was a long-term sub at this charter school, and this was my last day at that charter school. And here's why. Student was disrespecting me, called me out my name, real egregious. And when I went to administration, I'd had issues with this student before. And when I went to administration and said, listen, I really need y'all to do something about Mary Jo, because Mary Jo is just ridiculous. She called me out my name. I'm not dealing with this, yada, yada, yada. When that administrator looked me in my face and said, yeah, she definitely is a handful, but she's got great test scores. So we can't do anything with her until after testing. That literally was my last day at that school. I mean, I was a long-term sub. I was like, you know what? Y'all can have this. And I left because I was like, so what you're telling me is it doesn't matter about her being disrespectful and rude and da-da-da-da-da and yada, yada, yada. Y'all are relying on her test scores. And these were the days of No Child Left Behind. So you know how hot stakes it was with the test. That was so again, you guys, once again, we're back and we're back here where if things progress on the road that we are on, I don't know what next year public schools are going to look like across this country. DC is struggling right now because the threat of cutting DC's budget, because DC is a colony, and they're struggling right now because they're going to have to make up, if things progress the way they're going, they're going to have to make up something like $400 million in their budget. And y'all already know the first thing they're going to cut is schools. I mean, the last time Congress played hardball with DC was when we reelected Marion Barry, right? They got mad that we put Marion Barry back in the mayor's office, and they cut our budget to the point where we were only getting trash pickup like once every other week. And it was bad. Like, it was like essential services where it was a skeleton situation here in DC because of how badly they cut our budget. Because again, DC is a colony. So anyway, you want to roll on over to the Supreme Court with your girl, Amy Coney Barrett?
No, that's your girl. That
ain't my girl.
I give her all to you, honey.
Actually, but now listen, she's not my girl, but I will say that screenshot that was circulating the night of the State of the Union, the look she gave your president. She really did give him a look like.
She was like, I know y'all ain't got me sitting up in this. I know y'all ain't got me sitting up in here listening to this mess.
Okay, like what are we doing here? So, and it all connects because there's a Supreme Court case. I'll read you guys the information where Amy Coney Barrett has recused herself. And a lot of people were sort of making a issue out of it. They were like, what does this mean? Is this is this sort of a foreshadowing to how she's going to move in this new administration? But when I went to go read the article, this case is directly connected to, again, what could be the future of our education system, depending on how this case is ruled. So let me read you guys this article. This was published on March the 17th of 2025. This is coming from Raw Story. The title is Mysterious Amy Coney Barrett Recusal Could Upend the Pivotal Supreme Court Religion Case. So this story first appeared at the 74, a nonprofit news site covering education. In 2020, when Amy Coney Barrett came before the Senate for confirmation to the U.S. Supreme Court, one of her closest friends told a story on TV about their year together working as law clerks in the nation's capital. Lord, I'm sorry, y'all. The last day when you leave the court, you think, wow, that's about the coolest thing that's ever going to happen to me. And Nicole Steele Garnett, she assisted Justice Clarence Thomas during the 1998 term. That same year, Barrett worked under Justice Antonin Scalia. Now, to see my friend testifying before the Senate Judiciary Committee to walk back up those steps 21 years later is really something. Justice Amy Coney Barrett and Notre Dame University professor Nicole Garnett met as Supreme Court law clerks in the late 1990s. Fast forward another 5 years, Garnett, now a law professor at the University of Notre Dame, is about to have her own Supreme Court moment. On April the 30th, the court will consider a legal question that has defined her career. Can explicitly religious organizations operate charter schools? We're back at the charter. And we actually talked about this, I believe last year we talked about this because I believe it's in Oklahoma where there's some charter schools that are run by churches. I believe that was Oklahoma.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Oh, it is Oklahoma because, okay. At the center of the dispute is St. Isidore of Seville Catholic Virtual School and Online School in Oklahoma that planned to serve about 200 students this year before the state Supreme Court ruled the decision it approved it violated the constitutional provision separating church and state. This could be an earthquake for American public education, says Samuel Abrams, who directs the International Partnership for the Study of Education Privatization at the University of Colorado. As the country experiences a rise in Christian nationalism, a favorable ruling could invite the encroachment of religion not only into education, but other areas of civic life that have traditionally been non-sectarian. If the Supreme Court rules in favor of overturning that decision, the church-state cleavage will disappear. That's a dramatic development for the First Amendment. And a sign of the case's gravity, Trump administration filed a brief in support of St. Isidore last week, arguing that a state may not put school parent or students to the choice of foregoing religious exercise or foregoing government funds. But Barrett, who handed President Donald Trump a conservative 6-3 supermajority when she was confirmed to the court, won't be on the bench to hear it. She recused herself, leaving no explanation for sitting out what could be the most significant legal decision to affect schools in decades. Observers believe the reason is her friendship with Garnett, who is an early legal advisor to the school. While she's not officially on the case and hasn't joined any legal briefs in support of it, Nicole and her husband, also a Notre Dame law professor, are both faculty fellows with the university's Religious Liberty Clinic, which represents St. Isidore. And it goes on to just talk about some of her past decisions, so forth and so on. What do you think?
No, I think Amy Coney Barrett did the right thing by recusing herself. I wish that Justice Uncle Ruckins, Clarence Thomas would do the same. Because there's a lot of cases that he's sat over, and we know point blank that he took money from the people that came before him. He was bribed. We know it's already documented, already on the record, and there's nothing we can do about it. The man took bribes. He was paid. Now, I think she did the right thing by recusing
Yep.
herself so people wouldn't think, you know, that she was making these judgments based on the fact that this was her friend. Um, you know what it reminds me? Shout out to Wicked, where Glinda tried to go fly away, and this lady was like, "Is it true you were her friend?" They burning effigies
Right.
in the background.
Right.
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 And while you trying to fly off after singing this beautiful song, hitting these high notes, the one was like, boo. Is it true you were her friend? That part takes me up. And I feel the same way. Had she sat on that, you know, some journalist would have wrote an expose and laid her out. Laid her
yeah.
all the way out.
Oh yeah.
Now,
I think she did the right thing as well. I do.
and I think that people are waiting, especially for a case like this, where you know public funds are being given to schools that are religious institutions. That's basically essentially what this is about.
Yeah.
And so now, and this is a landmark case. And so the reason that you see so many people having issue with it is they are, both sides are baked. I don't know how Amy Coney Barrett became this major player on the Supreme Court, but apparently she's a major player now in the Supreme Court. Conservatives are expecting her to just fall over and fall in line with the Trump administration and all of this stuff that they want to do, want her to and all of the stuff they're trying to get through. The people on the left have seen that she at times is willing to make adjudications and vote on the side of the left. And so they're wanting her to maybe go along with the left, as well as maybe if they can convince John Roberts to come along. And he's tried, you know, a couple times to come along because he know his legacy is he has a horrible legacy. So what you end up having here is there people on both sides were looking to her to see how she would what she would decide in this case, because this is a very monumental case with regard to education. Monumental case with regard to education.
This case really could, as somebody who went to a Catholic school for 12 years, it could change the face of everything. Because again, we're talking about the charter where they're going to get the federal funding, but it's going to be religious based. I mean, essentially, it could affect smaller Catholic schools that are more vulnerable. You know, here in DC, once again, in the Archdiocese of DC, over the last 10 years, they have closed, maybe even 15 years, they have closed a lot of their Catholic schools because the enrollment just wasn't there. And imagine if I can send my child to a Catholic school for free now. I mean, that could decimate what we see as the Catholic school system right now, or even just the church school, you know, a religious school, because you're now giving, once again, you're giving parents the opportunity to get what they think they're going to be getting from a religious school or a Catholic school or what have you, but you can do it for free instead of having to pay the tuition. So once again, this is where we are. This court case could change the face of, I mean, again, change the face of education. And this is not only a charter school, this is an online charter school.
Mm-hmm.
You guys, this stuff is serious.
It's very serious, y'all.
It's very, very serious. Oh Lord. Our last story. Do you want to on ed tech?
Oh yes.
All right, let's talk about ed tech, ladies and gentlemen. Ooh, honey. This is coming from the Times of India. You was really looking today, weren't you? For those who do not know, El Teddy does the research. He does the research for our articles. The Times of India.
Listen, it had great information.
I mean, I ain't mad about it, but I'm laughing. I'm like, okay, you know, the Times of India, okay. But this is this article is from March the 19th of 2025. Education tech guidance goes missing. What is the U.S. closure of the Office of Ed Tech mean for schools? What does the closing? The U.S. Department of Education has made a significant move that could shake up the way educational technology is managed in schools. As a part of a major reduction in force, the department has eliminated its Office of Educational Technology. This office was crucial in setting national strategies for integrating technology into education and supporting states and districts with policy guidance. The closure of OET means that states and districts will no longer have direct access to the same level of federal support when it comes to navigating emerging tech challenges in schools. As reported by Education Week, the department's staff reduction, which will bring the agency down to about 2,200 employees by March the 21st, has left many educators and experts questioning how smaller districts will adapt without centralized guidance. For years, OET served as a vital resource for districts trying to integrate new technologies like artificial intelligence, cybersecurity, and even basic devices like cell phones and laptops. The office support helped schools create evidence-based strategies to ensure that technology use was both effective and ethical. Joseph South, former OET director during the Obama administration, expressed concern that without the office, states and districts will be left to navigate these issues independently, which could lead to inefficient and redundant efforts across the country. As quoted by Education Week, he said, there's going to be a new technology. It's inevitable. States and districts are going to be trying to figure it out, and there won't be an entity that's gathering research on effective pedagogy, best practices, and then responding back to states with guidance. Smaller school districts are expected to feel the brunt of OET's closure. Amelia Vance, president of the Public Interest Privacy Center, highlighted how these districts often lack the in-house expertise needed to implement new technology safely. If you have thousands of school districts that aren't able to provide resources when it comes to what is the best way to adapt new technology. How do we do it safely? How do we do it in a privacy protective way? Vance noted, as quoted by Education Week. The OET's role in providing clear, vetted guidance was especially valuable to smaller and rural districts that may not have dedicated staff for educational technology. Though some experts believe other organizations can help fill the gap left by OET, they acknowledge that no one group can replicate the office's broad federal authority and standing. John Bailey, a senior fellow at the American Enterprise Institute, noted that while various support organizations are emerging, they lack the power OET had to influence policy across the entire country. As reported by Education Week, Bailey remarked, there is such an ecosystem of support organizations now. I think they are trying to make the case that's why this isn't needed. The closure of OET could reshape the future of education technology in the U.S., potentially leaving many school districts scrambling for resources and direction in an increasingly tech-driven educational environment. I just want to ask one question, and then I'm going to give the floor to El Teddy. Can we imagine what would have happened during the pandemic without the support and the resources and what an office like the OET provided for our schools across the country, when schools literally had to close overnight with no technology infrastructure? Okay.
My thing about it is this. The whole reason for the OET is to help bridge the digital divide. That was one of the main purposes of OET, the fact that there was a digital divide, that there was a moment where we had students that had archaic computers and archaic technological infrastructure at these schools, and the resources just were not there. And then to add insult to injury, if and when you did get those resources, was the staff trained and or had enough professional development with which to properly instruct students on how to use said new technological advances properly. Because you're talking, if someone lives in a rural area and that whole area does not have access to the some of these technologies, just the whole area. I'm just putting it bluntly. You're talking whether or not your student, parent, staff, teacher, whatnot, it's just not there. You the OET not only put resources there, but what they would then do is provide the professional development for staff and teachers and faculty so that they could properly make sure the implementation of it, because you have to have staff members that know how to that are technologically advanced to service it resources, or be it software or hardware. Then you have to have the faculty that is trained and has enough professional development on said technological resources so that they can properly instruct those students on proper usage of that. And all of it wasn't even. I've even seen programs from the OET where it wasn't even just teacher led, but it was even student led sometimes, because to be quite frank, there are some resources that students may have much better knowledge on or more equipped to use even than sometimes the faculty. And there were programs and initiatives that I saw even with regard to that, where the OET would come in and make sure that the implementation of all of this stuff happened the right way. But when you once you what you have said when you close these offices is, this is not a priority for us. Closing the digital divide is not a priority. Yes, technology is advancing at lightning speed. We have no interest in seeing that our students across the country have access to all of that. If you don't have access, you on your own. And that's what is being said when you close offices like OET.
But you know what? The Informed brings up a good point. I wonder, because what we have been noticing is that Elon Musk has been very strategic in what he's attacking and what he's closing based on either agencies that were investigating one of his companies, or he would close the office and then mysteriously now he has a contract, i.e. the FAA. I'm wondering if him attacking and them closing of the ed tech, do you think that Musk has something he's putting in the background, he's sliding in with? I mean, what do you think?
I don't give him that much credit. I just
Okay.
think that it's to me, the purpose is for it to hurt. That's the whole
Mhm.
point. For them to hurt people. They have no interest in seeing the general public, us, the others, the people who are the poor working people, the people who have to go out and get it and work every day. They want no parts of seeing us have anything. We are clearly in an oligarchy sliding into an authoritarian dictatorship. That's where we are at this point.
Well, I already told you this was a coup d'etat, and yeah.
That's where we are. That is where we are. I blame you.
Not me, honey, not me. Well, you guys, y'all know we try to keep y'all to an hour and not and keep you there. It has been 55 minutes. I do want to say this. Y'all, I think we're getting closer to an intro. I think we're getting there. El Teddy actually did work on a project for the
Is that
channel.
what we're doing?
Yes, that's what we're doing. El Teddy actually did work on a project for the channel last week. That's connected to our keynote. Um, with that being said,
Mm.
yeah, I think we're almost
It
there.
be your own people. It
I
be
think we're
your
almost there.
own people. Lord.
But with that being said, you guys, um, again, like I said at the top of the hour, we are getting there. The subscriber count, listen, This was never meant to be a fast moving train. We just want to get the information to you guys. So thank you to all those who are always here to support us. The doc is getting ready to go live over on his channel. If you're not subscribed, check him out, El Teddy 27. If you're listening to us or finding us for the first time, thank you so much. We hope you enjoyed yourself. Please subscribe and consider coming back again. Any final thoughts, Doctor?
I mean, I'm glad you done throwing me under the bus.
With
Lord.
love, though. I did it with love.
Right. That's what we're calling. Child, if that's what love is, God help us. Anyway, listen, y'all. Like,
that's
really
the way
be.
love goes. That's what Janet said.
That's what she said. What's love got to do with it is what Tina said.
And did.
She called it a secondhand emotion, not a secondhand emotion. she went further and said, "Who needs a heart when a heart can be broken? Hell, heart. Who needs one of those? It could be broken." Anyway, I am. We're looking forward to being here. We're gonna be here again next week. I'll do my best to try to hopefully have the intro worked out by next week. And we're just here to bring you all the information. That more than anything, we want to make sure that you all stay informed. Like I always tell y'all, everybody has their part to play. And little did we know, when we, even during the pandemic, we didn't know that that was going to be our part. But our part was being here every week, giving you all guidance and information state by state on what is happening with regard to school openings. Now that we have the diminution of public education in this country, here it is. We play our part again. We're here to make sure that we're bringing you information as we get it in real time, and making sure that you all stay informed, so as things affect you, your loved ones, and so forth, that you can be that you can make sound decisions about what to do moving forward. So everybody has to play their part in their role, and we're here to do our part and play our role.
And with that being said, thank you guys so much. We'll see you guys back here next week. And I love you so much. All right. Talk to y'all later. Peace. You think it'd be too much to ask for an outro too? Like